Welcome to the Black Real Estate Voices podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Jefferson, and this week's episode is a recap of an interview I did with Carrie Little out of Illinois. She is a broker owner of her own realty firm, and she dives into basic things that a new agent or seasoned agent could do for free that would generate, some of them are for free, that would generate them some business. Really honing down, getting back into the basics, as well as learning how to follow up with your clients, and two essential things that you need to know as a real estate agent. Let's get into the episode. So at what point did you start to feel like you got your groove in the real estate industry?
I would say I had my groove after about the first 6 transactions, because I knew how to write a listing agreement. I knew how to explain the listing agreement, and I knew how to write a contract. I would say I got my groove. Do I feel like I was an expert? No, because I am clear I was violating the rules. So I would say that I became proficient probably after the 3rd year. And I got some confidence, because there's some agents out here that are mean. Like, I don't want to be that agent. I would write an offer and I would say, did you get it? And agents would say things like, I've been doing this for 5 years and you don't know what you're doing. And I'm like, and I have some sarcasm, and I would pause and say, I'm sorry, so you've always been a top producer, super producer, you were never new? So give me some grace. So about 6 deals in, I felt like I was proficient. And then I would say about 3 years in, I'd say I had probably really gotten into the groove of doing the business. Got you.
At that point, what were you doing to increase your business?
So again, I didn't have deep pockets. So what I did well, and I was tech savvy, I would create a newsletter, and I would create it in Microsoft Publisher. We didn't have Canva. And I would write my own articles. I would talk about the market update, and the townhouses that I lived in, there was about 197. I would walk my subdivision every single month until it got cold, because in Illinois, around November, it gets cold, and it gets even colder in January. So for about 3 months, I might have mailed. But I walked my neighborhood. I had doorknob bags that I had gotten from Uline. We didn't have Amazon, because Amazon buys their bags from Uline, which is across the street, and it's the same cost. Comes about the same amount of time. So I would stuff bags and I would walk. And it took about 7 months for me to get a deal from my own neighborhood. So the 2 things I did was I walked my neighborhood, and that was it. The other thing I did was I mailed to my friends and my family, and I worked the church like it was like nobody's business. Like, if you weren't working with me at church, you just weren't supporting me. And there were a lot of people that worked with me. That was my hustle, the church and my sphere of influence, people I knew, family, friends, people I grew up with, past jobs. And then I walked my neighborhood, and that was it. And then the other one I would include I had kids in sports. So they knew that I was a real estate agent, and people would ask me questions. So I closed deals with the gymnastics coach, the orchestra teacher, teachers. And sometimes I was just a resource. And that's how I grew my business. And we didn't have, again, social media.
Gotcha. So where did that come from?
I think because, when I got the job based on my twin sister skills for Kassane Business Systems, I was pushed into tech in 1990. And then I worked for a company called NEC Technologies. So I was already learning tech. I had already, we're using Zoom to record for a podcast. When I worked for NEC, they were doing streaming, and it was probably thousands of dollars per day. So I knew flat screen TVs, they had plasma. I just understand tech because I was in it. So being able to adjust and to teach tech was an easy transition for me.
Got you. So since you're speaking on tech, does your business incorporate a lot of automation?
So yes. So, well, let me say it like this. when it comes to automation, like if you were to come to my real estate page, I use the bot inside of Facebook. So it's an autoresponder. Our company, because of the pandemic, so I went through the Goldman Sachs 10,000 small businesses cohort during the pandemic. And so we went to a virtual office. Because I'm tech savvy, we were already using something called Workplace, which is owned by Facebook or Meta today. And so I have a true online platform. And so I can run a business and be an instructor. Although I'm kind of transitioning and trying to train some of my agents to train some of the new agents so I can pivot a little bit. Anyone that comes to my company, I really like tech savvy and self-starters because I have a whole campaign. I email you your first 6 weeks in real estate. I do have virtual classes. I have in-person classes, but I have a full built out classroom because I'm tech savvy. So I can compete with big box brokerages. Some people like big box because they think they need the name, but I can do everything they can do.
How many agents do you guys have?
32. We
32.
fluctuate between 32 and 40. And you know, they always say, Carrie, you create confidence, and that's a good thing. So a lot of agents end up getting their broker license or managing broker in Illinois, and they open brokerages. And, you know, I never stop anyone. I never say you can't do it. If someone asks me what I think, I'll tell you, hold out, wait a minute, because, you know, you might not know as much as you think you do. But I've had 4 or 5 agents open their own brokerages. And because I really do teach the fundamentals of real estate and tech, companies come in and write checks to my agents. And I'm like, you know what? Go take the check. Because I'm not writing the check.
Gotcha.
So we fluctuate between 32 and 40. I'm always asked, Carrie, do you want to be bigger? If I could clone myself, maybe. And now we're licensed my husband and I are licensed in Florida and Illinois. And I have people that want to join me in Florida. I'm like, hold on, because they don't use attorneys. I got to figure that out.
Gotcha. So what would you say are probably the top 2 fundamental pieces that a real estate agent should have?
So the top 2, let me say, as a new real estate agent, you have to show up to learn, and you have to ask for the business. So if I were to say those 2 things to a new real estate agent, you got to show up if you want to get it done. Sounds like a reel, right? And then number 2, you got to ask for the business. So even if you weren't tech savvy, even if you knew nothing about real estate, if you show up, learn what your brokerages teach you, what your multiple listing service teaches, your local, state, and national association, what they teach, and then you put into practice and you ask for the business, you can do this business. It's the agents that come to class or they call their managing broker or broker the day they have to write a contract. It's hard to help you. And it's easy. I can answer the phone, but now I got to just tell you what to do. I can't give you context. So the best tip I can give anyone that's new in the business, you got to show up. Even if you're dual career, part-time, some of the time, you got to fit in time to do the business, practice the business, and then ask for the business.
Gotcha. What would you say is your top lead generation piece right now for you that you utilize?
First of all, I'll tell everyone that's new in the business or anyone that's in the business, you need to have a list of people. Now, I said a list because not everyone is tech savvy, so might not jump right to a client relationship management tool. But if you could, that would be great. If anyone was new and if your brokerage gives you a client relationship management tool, CRM, or you have to invest in one, go for it, because when you start to do business, all of your contacts will be in one place. But if you could just break out a notepad or Microsoft Excel spreadsheet and put in everyone you know, that the people you know, your money is your net worth is in your network. Even if you know 2 people, you got to figure out how to get outside, meet new people, and build your network. And nothing happens overnight. It happens over time. So build your CRM, add the people you know, and mail to those people. And I said mail for this reason. I'm a little bit older. Gen X, baby boomers, and silent generation are more likely to hire you from the mailbox. You do need social media because we know, I think as of this year, the internet was about 33 years old, or the World Wide Web. If the average or the median age of a buyer is 32 or 33, they're all on social media. They're using tech. But in 10 years, if we haven't integrated the social media, you could be listless. So you need a database. You're more likely to generate business from the people you already know, even if you don't have a big list. I'll go to a second one. You got to learn how to use the multiple listing service. I know we all have different multiple listing services, but my multiple listing service, I can export a list of tenants that rented out something and they need to make a decision to move in the next 90 days. And I could take that same list and I could mail to the owner. That's 2 leads. Or depending on how you look at it, it could be, you could have a tenant, they could become a buyer. You could have a tenant, they could become a new tenant, and that's low hanging fruit. And that list could also become your listing list. Like you could list, it could be you have a new investor, so you have multiple streams of income. Or this list could be that you're going to relist the property for rent, or you're going to list it for sale. Because in this market, in the seller's market, where there's not a lot of inventory, you now could do a marketing piece that talks about, how much more people are putting down on offers, the multiple offers, and the increase in median sales price and the low inventory. And someone's going to call you, because I mailed to my old neighborhood where I grew up, and someone called yesterday, and I've been mailing since for about 8 months. And these people in where I grew up they've lived there for over 30 years, but we don't mail. And in the minority community, especially us, I hear the stories I hear. So I have another agent friend, Sarah. She's like, Carrie, I mail, and then someone calls me and I answer the phone, and they're like, oh my gosh, you really answer the phone. Like if one of you just started to mail, minority or not, eventually you'll get a lead. And it takes about 5 to 7 months for someone to pick you from a direct mail piece. So sphere of influence, database, mail to your own neighborhood, and leverage your MLS, because you don't need to spend any additional money generating leads. You can use third-party companies. You could use Realtor.com, not a real estate company. You could use Home Finder, not a real estate company. You could use Zillow, now a real estate company, to buy leads. But if you just show up to learn your MLS, there's money. There's so much money in our multiple listing service. We just want someone to give us the lead.